Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid and another morning ramble. Welcome back to the woodshed, which, as you know, if you're a loyal, faithful subscriber, and thank you if you are, you know it's still dark outside, and I'm shut up in the safety of my woodshed because we have coyotes and a big old 300-pound black bear out there somewhere. And as of this recording, only a few days before the first official day of fall 2018, I'm willing to bet that there's a bunch of big buck white-tailed deer out there in my field, or they're at least getting close or getting ready to be out there. Fall is upon us, guys, and there are some things we need to do to get ready for fall. It's all about bucks and rut and nuts, and by that I mean like the kind that you eat that fall from trees. Here's what's going on. Okay, fall is pretty much here. It still feels like summer. We're in that period where a lot of folks refer to it as Indian summer. Dearly and I went for a walk yesterday in Charlottesville, my beautiful bride, and it was such a strange feeling because it was humid, because this is a very humid region, but there was not the heat that should have been going along with that humidity. And I was like, what is this? What is this? What's going on here? Well, yesterday evening, the last hour or so of daylight, while I'm out in the yard just staring at the chickens, Dearly kept screaming at me. She kept telling me to go outside and I had to go to the garden and get a bell pepper because she was making that chicken curry, which is wonderful. If you saw her recipe. And guys, we tried to get fancy and do some fancy editing stuff for our videos because a lot of people say, I can't believe you guys just record yourselves with an old cell phone and you don't do any editing and you're loading at 480, whatever. I don't understand what they're saying. So I thought maybe we should do some of this fancy stuff they do. And so we tried it. And so in the first whole part of that cooking video, it says type text here or something. We don't even, I don't know, but we watched it and we saw that you can still see what she's cooking, and it still turned out well. And so we just left it, and we're just going to kind of stop worrying about those fancy editing things the millennials do and they're saying we should do, and we're just going to keep just making these videos with these $3 used digital cameras we get at thrift stores and stuff because we're thrifty. And so far, I guess it's working. Anyway, look at me getting all off on these tangents. So Dearly sends me out for a green bell pepper from the garden because she's making chicken curry, and it was absolutely delicious. And of course, I get what should have been 3 minutes becomes 20 minutes, and she's out here looking for me because I'm staring at my chickens in the sunset. But while I'm staring at my chickens in the sunset, it was beautiful. The sun was already down behind all the trees, but there was like an open space in the limbs, and it was shining through there like a ball of fire, and I was just lost in its beauty. So she's screaming at me, and I turn around. Of course, I can't see her because everything's white because I was staring at the sun. Yes, now we know. So anyway, it occurred to me that fall is here. I don't care if it says on the calendar that it's in 3 days. Okay, I stepped back outside to do something else that should have taken 3 minutes. It took 20, and she came out yelling for that. But what caught my attention that time is I stepped outside, and we have these walnut trees surrounding our house. Well, for the first time this year, I saw one of our many gray squirrels we have living around here collecting walnuts from my trees. And so it was on the ground, and it had the walnut in its mouth, and it was running around, and it would drop that one and pick up another one, and it would run a little bit, and then would drop that one and pick up. It was going crazy because there's so many walnuts on the ground, which is kind of a surprise to me because I haven't been paying much attention to my own walnut trees. Here a couple weeks ago, I was going out to check the mast to see what kind of winter we were going to have because, you know, typically the heavier the mast, the harder the winter. I haven't been paying attention to my own walnut trees because this spring our trees aborted more little tiny walnuts, about not much larger than a marble, the large marbles, than I'd ever seen. And so I Googled that to research that, and I found out that what was going on, allegedly, was that those nuts were not, pollinated or cross-pollinated, and so the tree knew that, and so it aborted them, got rid of them. Well, I thought it got rid of all of them, but obviously it didn't because we have a ton of walnuts in our yard. Okay, so the squirrels are starting to collect those. But my point, guys, 4 minutes and 57 seconds into this video is that, ready or not, here fall comes. Now, there are some things we've got to do to get ready that we better do it. Or here's some lessons I learned from previous falls, things I'm doing a little bit differently starting yesterday. Now, we're not being paid to promote this product. I'm telling you about this product because we've used it for the last couple of years and this product has worked for us. This is a deer repellent. It's all natural. It's called I Must Garden Deer Repellent. It's spice scented and it actually smells good. It smells like those highfalutin overpriced jar candles from Yankee Candle store. I think that's what it's called. There's one in Barracks Road Shopping Store in Charlottesville. I like to go in there and just smell the candles. I get informed half the time I go in there that I smell them wrong. I guess you're supposed to take the lid off the jar and smell the lid. Well, I take the lid off the jar and smell the jar because it's just more powerful scent. And I'll have these candle sniffing connoisseurs come up and just point out my hillbilly ways of smelling candles. And I listen to them and I say, wow, that's interesting. And then I go back to pulling the lids off the jars and smelling the whole jars because the scent's more powerful and I'm there to smell candles. And then I leave. I'm not spending $28 for a candle. So anyway, this smells like those highfalutin candles. Now, I used to do that in the past. I have bought Yankee Candles. They're good. They're wonderful. I'll tell you, you know when I like to buy them? I've gone in there in July, and I bought the Christmas-scented candles for $7. And I bought a lot of them, and I've sold some of them on Amazon in December for $20. Just an FYI. Dumb hillbilly, huh? Okay, so anyway, I went out yesterday. We've got all these trees. If you follow our channel regularly, you know I've planted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees on my property. I'm always growing trees. So I've got like privacy hedges with Leyland cypresses and eastern red cedars in the front. Bunch of hardwoods. Okay, first year here, I went through the hard work and effort and spent money to buy Leyland cypress trees, which by the way, you can get really cheap in December and January on Walmart.com for like 1/3 regular retail price because they're off season. So keep that in mind if you want to buy some Leyland cypresses. Get them in, like, just keep watching Walmart.com. You can get them in maybe 12 to 18 inches tall for like $13 each. If you buy them in the spring or the summer or early fall, you're going to pay 2 to 3 times that. So anyway, I put out all these Leyland cypress trees our first year here, and I thought, man, that's beautiful. When those things mature and once they take root, they grow 3 to 6 feet per year. And ours literally doubled in size this year because they've taken root. First year they were slow. The second half of the second year they were in the ground, they've just started shooting up like crazy. The ones that survived. And here's what I mean by that. So I put them in the ground. I'm like, oh, this is great. Well, yeah, I put those in the first winter here. Okay, so this was last fall. They're in there in October, and I'm like, oh, those things have really taken root. They're going to take off. Well, I went outside one morning, and there's like 20 deer in my field, and 2 of them are fighting, and the other 18 are standing by, just looking like they just can't turn away. And then I walked through there after the deer run off, and I walked through the yard, and I look, and my Leyland cypresses were shredded. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. The bucks were in rut. This is the rut, the term used for the deer going into heat. And the deer antlers, they have the velvet on them, and they'll rub trees in the fall to get the velvet off their antlers. But once they start mating or breeding or going into heat, they'll just destroy every tree in their area. That's their way of saying, this is my territory, stay out. This is my territory, stay out. And they prefer trees that are 2 inches in diameter or smaller, though, as anybody who deer hunts or has a deer hunting pass knows, they'll go with much larger trees. I grew up deer hunting in the mountains of Appalachia, and we always thought, at least in my youth, that the larger the tree that had been destroyed by the deer, the larger the buck. I don't know if there's truth to that or not. So anyway, you know what? It cost me a year or more, almost a year's worth of growth on my Leyland cypresses. Some of them I was able to save, some of them I wasn't. So last year, gosh, time is running together, but I found this product, I started using it, and it worked. So Here's one of the things I'm doing differently. And if you have trees, and even if, if you live in Charlottesville, Virginia, in the middle of town, you have a problem with white-tailed deer. The white-tailed deer have overpopulated our area so much that you can live in the middle of town and you get a dozen deer in your yard at night. So if you put out trees, if you planted shrubs like blueberry bushes, and you don't have fenced guards around them or any sort of like the black plastic like runoff pipe people will often slit down the middle and put around their trees. If your trees and bushes and shrubs are not protected, this is the time of year you have got to protect them. I looked online this morning to find out when the deer go in rut. It was so neat because I guess just like everybody can predict the weather for the winter or hurricanes, which was supposed to wipe us off the map last week, but here we are. There's a lot of soothsayers out there, or soothsayers, saying they can tell when the buck's going to rut. So one article saying this rut's just like the one of 1999, and here's, okay, whatever. But it looks like typically the bucks, at least in our area here in Central Virginia, go into rut in late October through late November. I'm not waiting, guys. It's late September, so I might be a month ahead of them. I've started spraying my trees. I got half of them yesterday. Took me a whole bottle. These are about $14 on Amazon. I've got another bottle. I'm going to get the other half of the trees today. I'm being proactive. I'm getting ahead, and I'm staying ahead. I don't know how long this spray lasts. It might say on here. I know it's good for a couple of months, but I'm gonna get ahead and I'm gonna stay ahead. I'm gonna spray them once a month. I know that's going to cost me a little bit of money through the fall months, and I'm probably going to do this through till the end of the year. I'll stop at the beginning of 2019 because I know they're out of the rut. They're actually going to be losing their horns, their antlers soon at that point. But this is people, pet, and plant safe, long-lasting, and rain-resistant. So it's not like I'm spraying a bunch of chemicals and poisons on my lawn. I'm not. So that. Okay, now, number 2. I said it's all about the nuts. If you link that to the bucks and the rut, shame on you. That's not what I was saying. Now, come on. Remember our ramble from the other day. I say something. Don't make it mean something I didn't say. I was talking about the squirrels and the nuts. Well, in the mast, I guess I could see the correlation there. But we love to grow trees. I'm going to try to get some of these oak trees out here in these pots. Check this out. Look at that. Bam, 2,500 pots. Where did Crazy Lake get 2,500 pots? I got those for trees. Crazy Lake got those pots on Craigslist for $20. Drove down to Scottsville one night and picked them up. Filled my entire SUV, but I got them here. We actually rinsed those out and cleaned them, soaped some of the nasty ones out so that there's no bacteria in them from where they came from, and we're putting trees in them. Now, with that said, all these walnuts that we have here, thousands of walnuts, I thought, man, this is great. A lot of those walnuts, I can just put them off to the side, pile them up, and we're going to be able to, baby walnut trees will sprout. So last fall, and again, I'm a slow learner. I mean, remember the light? I used to sit out here in the dark and make these morning rambles with my lantern. I looked like all conspiratorial and stuff, like I was talking about they and them coming to get me. And then my wife reminded me, my beautiful bride pointed out we have a light. So listen to how long it took me to learn this about squirrels and walnuts. Last fall, I collected 5-gallon bucket after 5-gallon bucket, sometimes 4 or 5 a day of these walnuts. And I took them out by the side of the field, and I had this little hutch that I built that we used to graze rabbits in, and I filled it with these walnuts. I said, by golly, at some point I'm going to get around to planting some of those and growing some trees, from walnut trees from nuts. Well, I looked out the window one day and I saw about 1,000 squirrels out there. That's an exaggeration. There was probably 3 or 4 squirrels out there. You get the picture. That story doesn't even need to be finished for those of you. These people are gone. I was going to say for those of you for who 18 minutes and 36 seconds is too long to get to a point, but you're already gone because we're at 14 minutes and 36 seconds right now. So they've been gone for a while. The squirrel, and I let them have the nuts because they need the food too. This year, I'm going to compromise. I'm going to get several hundred of these walnuts. I'm going to bury them a couple of inches beneath the soil like we did the acorns last year, which have sprouted into probably more than 1,000 oak trees out there that I need to start potting up. And I'm going to cover the top of the ground where I bury these nuts with chicken wire and or the 2x4-inch wire with wooden frames, and so the squirrels can't get in there. Now, if a blizzard comes and everything gets decimated and wildlife's starving, I'll let those squirrels have those nuts. But I believe there's enough for both of us. And I'm going to do the same with the hickory nuts. I've been collecting hickory nuts from our hickory tree. And once the acorns start falling, we're going to go back in the woods and get more acorns. But guys, my point is this. Fall is upon us. Protect your trees. If you're growing trees from nuts like we are, protect your nuts. And here's thirdly, this is something we're doing differently this year. And my place is going to look a little shabby this winter because I'm doing this, and I don't care, because my connection with the wildlife that lives out here on my homestead has gotten so strong over the last year. I'm going to forget about my vast estate looking all manicured and all these things. It's rained so much, especially lately because of Hurricane Florence, the rain that is associated with that hurricane. My grass has not been cut in over 2 weeks. It's still too wet to cut it, even though it didn't rain yesterday. It's going to be a couple of days before things can dry out before it can be cut. I'm not going to cut my front fields. It's about a foot high, and what's going on is that the grass has gone to seed. I'm going to leave it there because in the winter, last winter, it got very cold for a couple of weeks. It was down in the 20s for nearly 2 weeks, and we feed the birds in the winter. We watched the birds in the field looking for seed. They ate it up pretty quickly because I kept my grass mowed. I never let my grass go to seed last year. I had that field mowed middle of October, I think maybe the day after Halloween, which would have been November 1st. The 1st of November, I mowed everything for the last time for the year so everything would look nice and well manicured for the winter. I'm not doing that this year. I saw how much seed. We were out there flying a kite the other day because of the winds that were up. It wasn't dangerous, but we were flying a kite in the drizzle because we could. It was windy, and this is just what my family does. And I was wearing flip-flops, and I got inside, and my feet were just covered with grass seed. And I immediately thought, you know what? This is bird food. So I'm not mowing my grass anymore out there. So this winter, the birds and the wildlife will have all that seed. They're going to have about 3 acres worth of seed they didn't have last year. Also, the stalks and the stems, that will help catch snow when it does snow, and as that snow melts, it will help keep moisture in the soil. So we won't have to worry about droughtish aeration, because sometimes it gets very dry here in the winter in this part of Virginia if we go for a while without precipitation. So these are just some things, and there's so many things we've got to do this fall to get our garden soil ready for next spring, and we'll be talking to you about these things as fall progresses. But it's almost 6:30 here my time, and I've got to go in the house and wake the kid up and give him his hugs and kisses and snuggles and all these other things he's going to be embarrassed by when he's a little bit older here in a few years and never watches these videos, and then get him off to school. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed this morning ramble. This one actually was associated with homesteading, probably more than just about most of them. We'll probably be back throughout the day to give you some updates on some other things we've got going on here. And get ready or not, here fall comes. And we'll see you next time for more from Homesteading Off the Grid.